Foreign Minister, Excellencies, scientific experts from around the world, colleagues and friends from around the world. I just have two special welcomes first to start with. It is a great honor to welcome the Foreign Minister of Somalia, Foreign Minister Harushi. You are welcome here. I so appreciated the opportunity to visit him in Somalia earlier this year. Your participation bears testament to Somalia's strong commitment to the CTBT, and I look forward to strengthening our cooperation. I also want to specially welcome the Undersecretary for Foreign Affairs from South Sudan, the youngest nation in the world. It is particularly important to see the youngest nation committing to the CTBT. You're going to hear more from these two gentlemen shortly, but very special welcome. But to everyone, welcome, both here in the room and those online. As you've heard, it's actually nearly 2,000 people that are either here or online at this conference this year. That is the largest number of people that we've had at a science and technology conference ever. So congratulations to you all for being a part of history. Let me start by talking directly to everyone who's actually here in this splendid hall. As you arrived here this morning, you must have been feeling worried, even nervous, because as you entered this hall, you looked up. You'd have a look up now. Isn't it amazing? You looked up and you saw this amazing, massive ceiling. And I'm sure you were thinking very hard indeed about the sheer weight of that ceiling, the colossal tension and pressures it exerts on the wooden beams, on the supporting walls, outward and downward. And you were wondering, won't that beautiful but very heavy ceiling fall down and squash us all? Well, call me an optimist, but I'm confident we will survive, at least until the end of my speech. That ceiling and roof of the Hofburg Palace is very strong. It is solid. All being well, the ceiling will look down on fine events like this one for generations, even centuries to come. But why? Why is it so solid? The people who built it had no computers. They had no email, no fancy design programs, not even TikTok. They had no calculators, no laser gadgets, no power tools. But what they did have was a way to measure things. They measured exactly what needed to be done to design and build this hall. Then they measured exactly how they were going to do it. And here is my point, friends. They could measure exactly because they had agreed standards of measurement. On Thursday this week, the date will be the 22nd of June. Let's go back exactly 225 years. I can see the French ambassador here. This one's for you, Excellency. Go back 224 years to the 22nd of June, 1799 in Paris. Not long after the French Revolution. On that day, something happened that changes the world. A metal bar representing a new standard measure, they called it the meter, is deposited in the National Archive in Paris. That bar has been carefully calculated. It's agreed to be 1/10,000,000th of the distance from the equator to the North Pole. They display copies of the bar on walls around Paris. People see what the new meter looks like and they start using it in most countries. That bar can't measure itself. It sets the standard for measuring other things. This new standard catches on around the world. Science needs systematic measurement, right? And systematic standards. Not just for distance, for time, for mass, for temperature, for force, for stress, magnetism, electric current, radiation. But the principle stays the same. There's no measurement without an agreed standard of measurement. You can't be accurate without a standard for accuracy. Nowadays, things have moved on. We don't need a metal bar to define a meter. Instead, we set the standard as the distance that light travels in a vacuum in just under 3 nanoseconds. That's 10 to the minus 9. That is the distance of a meter. International standards have replaced national and local standards, or for ever greater levels of sophistication. Internationally recognized bodies have been set up under treaties, keeping those many standards in good order. This is why this gathering, here and online, has such symbolic and practical significance. We at the CTBTO have helped bring together about 1,775 scientists, technicians, experts, academics from around the world who use these standards. And mixed with the technical audience, we have at least 150 diplomats, and they represent the states around the world who've agreed the treaties, the conventions that set legal and policy framework. When we last counted, this conference brings together participants from about 147 countries, including the newest country in the world. Just think about all those languages, all those cultures. Yet we have one common language, the language of our internationally agreed scientific standards. Excellencies, colleagues, friends, this is the power of together. This is what the CTBTO, in partnership with all the state signatories, represents. The CTBTO mission stems from a simple obligation spelled out in Article 1 of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, which says each state party undertakes not to carry out any nuclear weapon test explosion or any other nuclear explosion. Our job is to detect any signs that that obligation has been broken. We're using sophisticated sensors and sophisticated measurement to detect possible nuclear explosion tests anywhere, anytime on Earth. We collectively are very, very good at detecting any explosion that might be a nuclear explosion. This makes them so much less likely to happen. Don't try it, you will get caught. Plenty of other national organizations and institutions around the world closely monitor seismic and other activities. They too can distinguish between an earthquake and a possible nuclear test, but the CTBTO is unique. We gather seismic data, measuring vibrations in the Earth's crust, seismometers measuring velocity in meters per second. They're carefully aligned with geographic north that allows us to determine the precise direction of seismic waves. We gather hydroacoustic data, measuring vibrations in the ocean. We gather infrasound data, measuring vibrations in the air. And we gather radionuclide data, looking for radioactive particles and gases from a nuclear explosion. In all of this, we partner with our state signatories, putting data and analytical capability into their hands. There's nothing else like this on Earth. It's not just that we bring all this data together and then analyze it speedily to formidable levels of accuracy. We're international. Our work is even-handed, is transparent. All the data is available to all our state signatories and can be shared with the world's scientific community. So I say loud and clear to everyone here today, scientists and diplomats alike, you and we together represent global teamwork at its finest. We share a simple political and moral goal: no more nuclear tests. And we share the best available technical ways to make sure we reach that goal. The treaty, the CTBTO set up under the treaty, the full participation of all of our state signatories, and the global network of scientists who support this goal, who invented smarter and smarter new ways to check that we can be sure we're reaching our goal. This is the power of together. Let's look at what our conference this week is contributing. One technology we use is infrasound. An exciting feature of this year's S&T is a metrology workshop. Experts will discuss recent successes in robust calibration practices for infrasound technology. By agreeing a new way to link the power of our technology to an agreed standard of measurement, what we're doing, we're opening up the way for all sorts of new developments. This is CTBTO and you, our wider scientific family, helping define the philosophical frontiers of science to get things done in a new and better way. This is big stuff. Let's give ourselves actually a loud round of applause for celebrating this teamwork. So many of you have contributed to it in so many ways. We so appreciate the partnership that is global, that makes our dream and our cause possible. Our planet makes a lot of noise. It's constantly creaking and gurgling and groaning and sighing. And we have to follow all that noise to spot anything in it that might be a nuclear explosion. Our machines and technologies, the machines you here help invent, keep getting better and better, more and more sensitive. So does our software for analyzing that data. This conference celebrates how this can work in practice. Our global network of sensors follows the impact of the Hoanga-Tonga-Hoanga-Ha'ape eruption last year. You'll hear more about that on Wednesday afternoon, and they'll try to say it as well. We measured our measurements, we picked up that eruption with all three waveforms. The vibrations from that eruption went around the world for several days. You'll hear more about it on Wednesday. Other highlights in this conference: new technologies for our on-site inspections. Sensors and monitors do so much, but from a distance. But when the treaty enters into force, the treaty also provides that scientific experts can visit a site where a suspected test may have taken place, to run first-hand checks on and in and above the ground. Their instruments can rule in or rule out evidence of illicit nuclear test activity. There's a powerful exhibit here featuring a helicopter frame down below and screens that show you what might be done from the air in an on-site inspection. Don't enjoy yourself too much inside the helicopter because we want you to come back to the sessions. Here's another example of the power of together. Most major scientific gatherings aren't like this one. They bring together experts in one or maybe two disciplines, depth, not breadth. But this event is completely different. It brings together so many different disciplines: seismology, acoustics, meteorology, radiation physics, information technology, software engineering, and representatives of 12 different scientific societies are joining us this week. Again, quite different and hugely important. What an opportunity for thinking outside the box, for seeing so many other boxes to explore, for thinking of ways to combine different boxes, or indeed make new boxes. In short, here in Vienna today is a meeting of the global team science. It's taking place to advance one of the great technical issues of our time, one of the great moral issues of our time: ending nuclear explosions. My central theme, the power of together, isn't complete. We need a standard for who counts when we measure together. Let's be honest. Much of the world's scientific leadership has traditionally come from only certain parts of the world, and from one category of people, largely, namely men. This has to change. This is changing, and I see in front of me here some amazing champions for seeing that change on gender in particular. The CTBTO is working really hard to broaden its internal representation and its outreach. You'll see this at this conference with different language panels, presentations from experts from across the world, and keen participation by younger people. You will see it that 50% of our presenters and panelists are women. And please, especially women and participants from less represented nationalities, get inspired and think about applying for jobs and join us at the CTBTO. We would love to welcome you. So, friends, how do I sum up? The Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty is a treaty for the world. 186 states have signed the treaty, 177 have ratified it, and there are more ratifications on the way. Sri Lanka completed its domestic ratification process just 2 weeks ago. And it's my pleasure to tell you that on the 9th of June, the House of the Parliament of Papua New Guinea agreed to ratify the CTBT. Can you feel the momentum? And there are even more in the pipeline. This is not done yet. On the ground, under the ground, in the sea, in the air, nuclear explosions will be detected. Since 1996, when the treaty was agreed, before 1996, over 2,000 tests. Since then, less than a dozen test events. No matter where they are, they will be detected. And this century, only one country testing. By any standard of policy and practice, by any measure of success, this is success. Success on a grand scale. Yes, it happened because the world states themselves agreed that enough was enough. But it needed both science and diplomacy, because the scientists showed that remote verification of nuclear tests was robust and was reliable. The diplomats were able to agree the treaty. We have present with us today some people that were a part of that process of nutting out the final language of our precious treaty. This, friends, is the power of together that you all here today represent. We together use the best possible standards of measuring. And when necessary, we agree new robust standards. And we together measure in incredible detail what's going on. We together analyze in incredible detail what's going on. We together know in incredible detail what is going on. We together are very good at what we do. And as each year passes, we're getting better and better, thanks to you. Don't try the test. You will get caught. I finish with good news and wise words. The good news: the ceiling has not fallen down, and our conference will continue, all right? Now the wise words from someone who is both a towering scientist and something of a diplomat. Just the right person to guide us today, Leonardo da Vinci. He said, "Truth at last cannot be hidden. Nothing is hidden under the sun." And with his wise words, I welcome you to Science and Technology 2023. Thank you.